Thank you so much, gentlemen. And I would request Mr. Ramakrishnan to please stay back on stage to give the talk on process automation in finance and treasury, key success mantra for CFOs. Mr. Ramakrishnan is an ACA, ACMA, ACS, and comes with an overall 26 plus years of industry experience in manufacturing, IT, ITES, consulting, and services industries. He specializes in helping listed companies to have a highly automated investor relations function and setting up a healthy communication channel between companies and its investors. He has been running his own consulting firm, Ramki Consulting, specializing in investor relations, tax, and treasury functions, and is also a partner at CFO Bridge, heading their investor relations practice. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ramakrishnan S. Huge round of applause, please.
Thank you. First of all, congratulations to the Almus team for putting up another grand conference another year, and they're growing year over year. Congratulations to them. Quick word about CFO Bridge. CFO Bridge, we are a 10-year-old firm. We are India's largest CFO services firm, primarily focusing on providing remote CFO services for various companies. We've got about 30 partners in our firm. We're about spanning about 700 plus years of experience, having operations in Mumbai, headquartered in Mumbai. We have operations in Pune. We have operations in Delhi, NCR. We have operations in Chennai, Bangalore, and Hyderabad. So that's briefly about CFO Bridge. And like I said, the remote CFO services which we've been providing is a well-oiled engine. We've been doing this for almost about 10 plus years now. We've got customers staying with us for the entire span of 10 years. But now, we are moving to something new. I mean, obviously, something which is, we've been listening. Morning, we heard Mr. Anand talking about historic level of where we are in imports. The last session, we spoke about fintech. So just taking a cue from some of these things, the areas which we are now focusing now is more on robotic process automation. Why robotic process automation? Again, here we've seen, typically when a finance guy comes over and talks about RPA, there's a lot of eyebrows which goes up. But the effect and power of RPA in finance is something which we are seeing on a day-to-day basis. And it's really having a telling impact on the entire industry. So what, and why RPA is basically, again, it's an offshoot of what happened during the COVID. Post-COVID, companies are struggling to find people. Even if they find people, just before joining, they probably don't come more on board. And then the processes also get struggled. And, more often than not, we're figuring out that CFOs are struggling to kind of deliver services. So that's where, I think automation plays a great role of easing the roles and easing the solutions for the CFOs. So some of the areas, and again, I also recognize the fact that the room has got more people from a treasury background, and the topics are around the same. So I would probably touch about the topics which are more concerning RPS pertaining to the treasury. So apart from the CFO services, we also do MIS automation, FP&A automation, working capital management automation. And talking about working capital management automation, some of the areas which we are currently focusing on, obviously is in terms of, it could be on imports. We're speaking about historic imports. More often than not, Almus as a company, they do a great job in advising you in terms of what kind of hedging policies, what kind of, derivative strategies you need to have. And they're good at that. But the basic thing which they first come and ask you is for data. And that's where companies struggle a lot. So what we try and do is we try and put in our RPAs into the systems. And our RPAs are kind of ERP agnostic. So they could pretty much sit on any ERP, pull out data for you as and when you read, and it is not dependent on any particular individual. And you pull out the data and give the data, and then there could be real-time decisions taken. You could have a fixed FX policy, but over and above the FX policy, you could also alter the policy as and when the data comes up. And that data could purely be done by a robo rather than depending on an individual. The second area which I would like to talk about is on some of the GST recons. Of course, the technology taking over GST recons is now a good about 5-6-year-old story. But what we have gone to the next step is to kind of introduce RPAs into those GST recons. So traditionally, we have some individual in the company who sends the data, and then that data is pushed into a reconciliation tool, tallies with the GSTN, and then we have a reconciliation. But here is an RPA which goes out and pulls out the data directly from the RPA, from the ERP, pushes it into the recon tool, and gets the output into, it also reconciles with the GSTN and then gives you the output. So basically, we are trying to go to the next level of automation, which is trying to kind of reduce the dependency on individuals. And I'm specifically highlighting these points because these are working capital management points and more interest for this kind of crowd. The third thing is in terms of any kind of reconciliation, more often than not, especially with the kind of e-commerce transactions. We spoke about UPI, now we are talking about digital currency and so on and so forth. But what it also means, the more the transactions happen through UPI, the more the transactions happen through Rupee and various other platforms, the need for reconciliations are also very, very high. And in those cases, typically what happens is we put in our RPAs to go and do majority of these reconciliations. So it's not a human dependency. And we work with e-commerce companies, and one of the biggest problems we've seen with the companies is that they are not very sure whether the settlements happen completely, whether the settlements happen in total, or is there a shortfall. So more often than not, they almost account what comes through. But now we have an RPA which kind of tells you the story in terms of how much is fully settled, how much is partially settled, and so on and so forth. So it's kind of embracing technology to the next level and making sure the human intervention is completely minimized. So similarly, in terms of again, the other thing generally for treasurers, early morning when I come and see as a CFO, the first thing I would like to see is my dashboard in terms of my banking balances, where we are on loans and stuff like that. And more often than not, it depends on a treasury guy to pull out this stuff. Whereas here we are talking about RPS, it could be anything. It could be emails coming from banks, it could be bank statement from banks, it could be from various platforms. Still, the RPS will be able to collate the whole thing and give it out in a meaningful format on a day-to-day basis, and also dole it out in the form of emails to a fixed group on a daily basis. So there are multiple ways in which we could automate the entire thing and take technology to the next level. And that's what now the CFO Bridge is completely focusing on. Other than that, obviously in terms of from a management perspective, be it in terms of automating the entire MIS and dashboards for the management, rather than depending upon individuals to prepare it, there are specific set of data which can be pulled out from the ERPs, specific output format which is determined, and then can be kind of doled out anytime to a set of people whom you determine. So long and short of the story, it's collating of all critical information in a digital form by a robotic product to kind of make sure that you get an output seamlessly, accurately, and also on a timely basis. Okay? The best part of it is, while RPS have been there, it was not all that affordable till now. But now what's happened is RPS are becoming a lot more affordable. And more importantly, RPS are also now available on a SaaS model. So you pay as you use. You don't need to necessarily buy the robotic product and then invest in capital. You do it on a SaaS model, pay for the number of months you're using or pay for the number of users you're having. And then once you're comfortable, at some point in time, if you think you can replicate it for more processes, at that point in time, you go out and invest further. So that's how, CFO Bridge is completely kind of glued on and changed. Of course, our well-oiled engine of CFO services and MIS and FP&A and stuff like that is a well-oiled engine for 10 years. But now we are moving to the next level, and we are also catching up with technology, and that's where we are trying to help companies to put in RPAs and make sure the automation goes on to the next level. The team from CFO Bridge is there out, and if you need more details, we'll be extremely happy to kind of share more details. But I would like to thank Almus for giving us an opportunity to sponsor. And like I said, more information, we are pretty much available here. Thank you.